model in this video, we have Tia, who has naturally dark hair but very fair skin, and for her we do use Mandala, and that is a medium brown shade. When I change the lighting, you will see that the color can appear different from when she's laying on the bed to the end result. So we're going to keep that in mind, but we also have a tattoo behind there. So looking at her natural root where it is very dark, she also has the tattoo and she likes to rock a bolder brow. Mandala is just the perfect shade for her. Once I have foam cleansed and mapped, I'm ready to go in with my tint. For the tint, we are doing just Mandala, and that is going to be done in a 4-drop ratio of dye to 2 drops of developer. So we have double dye to half developer. If you have someone with thicker hairs or more brow surface that you want to cover, you could even add in 2 extra drops. So you would be doing 6 drops of dye and 3 drops of developer, just so you have more product to play with. Now to start, I am actually focusing all of my dye in the first application and layer on the outer part of her brow. So the tail, the baseline, and the arch is where I am focusing, getting a gorgeous, deep, rich stain. So I started on the baseline first in a nice, even, thin layer, and we are going to build this up until that whole area is covered in one even layer. When I am doing the top of her brow, I am going to my outline and pulling it down into the middle of her brow. This ensures that I know I'm going to get the crispiest outline and everything will be completely covered and her skin will be evenly stained. When I'm going for the crispiest, boldest stain possible, I am basically disregarding the hair and I'm focusing on penetrating the skin as much as possible with my dye and brush. Push past the hairs and work it directly into the skin, and be very mindful of where you're placing it, how much product you're using, and your pressure, because all these things can make a huge difference in the outcome. And like I mentioned before, we're working on that outer brow, making it one even layer, allowing that to sit, and then I actually came over to the second brow and I do the exact same thing. This is because Tia, our beautiful client here, loves a bold outer brow and she loves that ombre effect. So if I had started the tint at the front of her brow and then worked my way to my body and then to my tail, by the time I came back for my second layer, the front of her brows would need to be removed because 60 to 90 seconds would have passed and I would want to remove that tint. So the overall timing for this tint is anywhere between 8 to 15 minutes. And because I want to have a ombre effect, I am leaving the front of her brows to the very, very end. Because again, we have fair skin, we're using a dark color. I know her skin is going to soak this product up very quickly. So I'm mindful of my placement and I'm just being strategic as to what I place, how much I place, and when I place it. So I did the first brow, that first layer on the outer. We went to the other brow, we did the exact same thing. Now I'm coming back to that first brow, applying a second layer, especially in areas where it already was starting to look a little bit drier. And now this is where I'm starting to incorporate the front of the brow. So because I'm happy with how the body and the tail is looking, and I'm now ready to move my way to the front, this is where I'm taking my time, making sure that the base is super crispy. And if I make any mistakes, I am to clean it up as soon as possible. Because once again, fair skin, darker color, already know that this product stains beautifully and quickly. So if I was to go outside of my lines, I would want to be cleaning it up as soon as possible. Now let's come back to our ombre effect. So as you see here, I left her fronts on for roughly 90 seconds. You can time it. And when I'm working with fair skin and a darker color, I actually do, because then I can ensure I'm getting a really nice controlled ombre effect. Now I did notice on the first brow, I loved the staining on the second brow, and the first brow wasn't giving the exact color I want. So not a worry in the world. All I need to do is come in with a tiny bit of tint. I go back in, stamp on that baseline where I just wanted a little bit more depth, leave it on for an additional 30, 60 seconds, and I take it off. If you need to spot tint, this is super easy and there is no harm in doing this. And I actually do it so much. Now with my clear cotton tip here, I am actually using a dry tip so that there's no product, there's no water. And what I'm doing is ensuring that the layer of the dye in the brow is sitting evenly. So I'll sometimes go in with that dry Q-tip and just push everything down into the hair and into the dye to ensure that it's a nice even layer and that nothing is staining in a different section. For overall timing, I did leave it on for 15 minutes. So this video has been edited. I did take out that kind of down quiet time, but I left on the body, so that arch and tail, for 15 minutes. My fronts were left on for 90 seconds, and I faded the little sections in between every 3 to 5 minutes. Now to remove the whole body, I just used a slightly damp Q-tip. Now one thing I have noticed when I am using this dye, you will remove it and the color will continue to get deeper as time goes on. So within the next 10 minutes, the shade that is sitting on your client's skin is going to continue to get deeper in depth. Now, I'm not saying we're going to go from brown to black, or if you had a blonde shade to dark brown, it's not going to work like that, but the shade that you have chosen is going to keep getting deeper in depth, which I love. I actually really enjoy it. I didn't know this when I first tested this product, but as I have gotten to know this dye, I can now confidently say that I'm going to take off this dye, and within the next 5 to 10 minutes, I will see the true shade that comes through. Now looking at our beautiful end result here, you can see that the dye is gorgeous. But I left in this video here about the two cameras to just show you that color tones show up different on cameras. The iPhone camera there was very warm, but the Sony camera was deeper and more true to color. I am filming these last shots on my iPhone, so they are showing up warmer, but Mandala also does have a warmness to its medium brown tone. I love it. I absolutely love it. This dye is just quickly becoming one of my favorites for that satin finish as well. It's not a gel finish and it's not a super matte powder finish. It has this gorgeous satin finish to it, and I am just obsessed.